Congress has been working hard to push back many Obama-era regulations, some of which have removed local control of federal lands in western states. One America's John Hines has more from Washington.
In its waning days, the Obama administration implemented aggressive land use regulations that undermined local land management in many western states. Now Congress has used the Congressional Review Act to roll back many of these onerous regulations, says Colorado Congressman Scott Tipton.
In the West, particularly where the abundance of our natural public lands are at, we want to make sure that we have access to those public lands and to make sure that our local communities are engaged in the planning process, as well as our local governors as well. 2.0 rule actually was implementing a process where the communities weren't having that actual input and supplanting some of the actions that our local governors could take as well.
It was that 2.0 rule implemented by the Bureau of Land Management in the Obama administration that caused Westerners to object. The rule would have taken many land and resource management decisions away from states and localities. Tipton says his legislation will reverse that.
Local lands are incredibly important in the state of Colorado, in my district, and our access to those public lands. Keep them in the public domain, but let's make sure that we're having the opportunity to be able to grow businesses, to make sure that we're using resources going to be responsible and protecting the land as well. And we want to make sure that we're having a place at the table with our local governments and with our state government as well when there's a planning process on those public lands.
More local control of local lands that happen to be owned by the federal government. That's what western states want, but that was not what the Obama administration was doing, says Frontiers for Freedom President George Landreth, who got his start working as a staff member for a Wyoming senator.
The tail end of the Obama administration, essentially right at the very end as they're walking out the door, they pass a bunch of new regulations on more federal rules, regulations on land that's either controlled by the federal government, or in many cases they pass rules that affect people who even own their own lands, and they've just said enough of this.
Regulatory relief for land use in the West is on its way. Tipton says that his legislation has been approved by both the House and Senate and is awaiting President Trump's signature. John Hines, One American News, Washington.